Imagine being 13, locked away in a hidden attic. Not because of anything you did wrong, but simply because of who you are. While bombs dropped and freedoms vanished, she wrote. She wrote about hope, about fear, about the unbearable silence, and the dream of living again. Her words weren't meant for the world, but they became the voice of a generation silenced by hatred. This isn't just a diary. It's the heartbeat of a girl trying to stay human in a world that had forgotten how. Welcome to our chapter-by-chapter exploration of The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, a voice that still echoes through time. Hello, everyone. Hi, all.
Welcome to BookPodCastZone.
I'm John, and I'm really thrilled to be your guide today as we unpack the profound insights from Anne Frank's diary. It's source material that just speaks volumes about resilience and, well, the human spirit.
I'm Emma, here to help connect those insights to the broader historical context. Really dig into the circumstances Anne faced and explore what her experiences might still mean for us today. Kind of offering that, so what's perspective?
Yeah, exactly. Our mission today is to truly try and understand the world Anne lived in, the challenges she faced day to day, and the incredible wisdom she shared from that hidden annex. We want to extract those most important nuggets of knowledge for you.
Let's get started then.
Okay, let's dive right into Chapter 1, Early Entries in Life Before Hiding. This covers roughly June 12th, 1942 to July 5th, 1942. So this is where we first meet Anne Frank. She's this vibrant, really thoughtful 13-year-old Jewish girl living in Amsterdam.
Right, and the first thing that strikes you is her excitement about the diary itself, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You can almost feel her delight when she describes getting it for her birthday. It's clear this gift, this simple notebook, it instantly became like a cherished confidant for her. Her early entries, they paint such a vivid picture of a remarkably typical teenager. School life, friends, gossip, even her first crushes.
It's all there, the everyday concerns, the joys.
Right.
It's relatable even across all this time.
Totally relatable. But what's really striking, even in these early pages, is her deep self-awareness. She talks about wanting to express herself freely, a need she feels isn't maybe fully met by the people around her.
Yeah, she has this sense that the diary can be something more than just a record of events.
Exactly. It's this profound recognition of her own inner life that immediately highlights why this diary became such a crucial, almost vital outlet for her. She needed to get her thoughts out somewhere.
And while the tone is mostly light, hopeful even.
Yeah, very much so at the start.
You start to get those first sort of ominous whispers, don't you? The first mentions of the growing restrictions being placed on Jewish people. It's subtle at first, but it's there.
It really is. Just little things creeping in around the edges of her teenage life.
And that sense of normalcy you described, it's just so poignant when you place it against the historical backdrop. Because let's be clear, the Netherlands had been under Nazi occupation since May 1940.
2 long years already by this point.
Right. And by 1942, the situation for Jews was deteriorating rapidly. These weren't just vague fears anymore. They were concrete, escalating policies designed specifically to isolate and persecute them.
Things you couldn't ignore.
Exactly. We're talking about bans on using public transportation trams, buses forcing Jewish families to walk everywhere. Imagine how that complicates daily life.
Just getting groceries, going to school.
Everything. And then, maybe most symbolically, the mandatory wearing of the Star of David. This yellow star visibly marked them, making them easy targets for discrimination, harassment, and, well, ultimately worse.
It's hard to even fathom that kind of public marking.
It really is. And remember, Anne's family, the Franks, they had actually fled Germany back in 1933. They came to Amsterdam seeking safety, thinking they'd escaped the worst of it.
They thought the Netherlands would be a haven.
Precisely. But now, these tightening restrictions meant that even Amsterdam wasn't safe anymore. That refuge was disappearing. What's particularly telling about Anne's writing here is how she captures the gradual encroachment of these rules into her life, rather than just stating them like facts.
Yeah, it's not like a news report. It's woven into her daily experience.
Exactly. It shows her keen observational skills even as a young teenager. She's noticing how her world is shrinking piece by piece.
It's remarkable, isn't it? How her early entries, despite the growing darkness, reflect such a universal teenage quest for identity.
Absolutely. That need to figure out who you are.
It's a pursuit as old as time, really. And you see echoes of it today, though in vastly different circumstances, of course. Think about how modern teens use social media, like TikTok or Instagram.
Curating their image, expressing themselves.
Exactly. They're trying to shape their identity, share their thoughts, find their voice online. Anne's diary, in its own way, was her private platform for that same kind of self-discovery, her own social media, just radically private.
That's a really interesting comparison. The medium is different, obviously, and the stakes are incomparable.
Oh, completely different. Freedom versus oppression.
But that fundamental human need for self-expression, for finding your voice, it's clearly there in both cases.
But here's where I think it gets really interesting with Anne. Her diary wasn't just a personal outlet, like maybe a blog is today. Given the context, it almost feels like an act of intellectual defiance.
What do you mean?
Well, in a world that was actively trying to strip her of her humanity, her individuality, her voice, the meticulous act of documenting her thoughts, her feelings, her observations, it became a profound assertion of her identity, of her intellect.
So writing itself was resistance.
In a way, yes. She was, maybe unwittingly at first, creating this counter-narrative to the oppression surrounding her, a testament to the human spirit's refusal to just be silenced, you know?
That's a powerful way to look at it. Do you think at this early stage she grasped the full, terrifying implications of these mounting restrictions? Or was it more of a gradual, creeping realization that we see unfolding in the writing?
That's a great question. I lean towards the latter. Her initial entries, they show her observing the changes, maybe with a touch of, like, youthful indignation.
Annoyance, frustration.
Yeah, annoyance. The way she describes losing the right to ride her bicycle or not being allowed in certain parks, it's framed more as an inconvenience, a real frustration, definitely, but maybe not yet the full existential terror.
Right. The deeper threat, the systematic dehumanization, the deportations, that seems to dawn on her more fully later, doesn't it? Especially when the direct threats arrive, like Margot's summons.
Exactly. It's like her writing mirrors the experience itself, that slow, insidious tightening of the noose. Her early optimism, though, it provides such a powerful, heartbreaking contrast to the challenges she's just about to face.
It really sets the stage for the drama to come.
It does. Okay, before we move on, just a reminder to everyone listening, if you're finding this exploration valuable, please like, subscribe, and share. It helps us keep these deep dives going.
Please do. Every bit helps.
All right, Chapter 2, Going into Hiding. This covers July 6th, 1942 through August 1942. And this is the pivotal moment. Everything changes.
The point of no return.
Absolutely. And vividly recounts the day her older sister, Margot, receives that dreaded summons to a Nazi work camp. And this isn't just a vague threat anymore. It's the immediate trigger. It forces the family into action, propelling them into their meticulously planned but still utterly terrifying escape into the Secret Annex.
You can feel the panic in her writing, can't you? The sudden rush.
Oh, completely. It wasn't some slow, strategic move. It was a desperate scramble in the early morning. She describes wearing layers and layers of clothing because they couldn't risk carrying suitcases, carrying only her school bag, and crucially, her diary.
That diary already being essential.
Yes. She describes the hidden space itself above her father, Otto Frank's office building, in incredibly precise detail. Her narrative just brings to life the cramped conditions, the feeling of being enclosed.
And those conditions get even more cramped pretty quickly.
Right, with the arrival of the Van Pels family, who she calls the Van Dans in her published diary, suddenly there are more people sharing this tiny, hidden space.
Adding another layer of tension immediately.
Definitely. And despite the overwhelming constant fear of discovery, I mean, can you imagine living with that every single second? And remarkably manages to maintain some sense of curiosity about her new surroundings.
And her humor, too.
And even a touch of her characteristic humor, describing the strange new rules, the enforced silence, the oddities of their confined world. It's quite amazing.
It is. And that summons from Margot, it's chilling when you place it in its historical context. This wasn't just bad luck. It was a direct reflection of the systematic Nazi policy.
Deporting Jews across Europe.
Exactly, to so-called labor camps, which, as we now know with horrifying certainty, were often just a step on the path to the extermination camps like Auschwitz. This process, this machine of deportation, had been grinding away since 1940, becoming more efficient, more ruthless.
So Margot's call-up was part of that larger horrific system.
Precisely. Now, the Secret Annex itself, so cleverly hidden behind that revolving bookcase, it wasn't unique, unfortunately. No, it was just one of countless such hiding places, attics, cellars, hidden rooms used by Jewish families, and others targeted by the Nazis throughout occupied Europe. It's a testament to both the ingenuity and the sheer desperation of people trying to evade capture.
And the bravery of those who helped them.
Oh, absolutely. It's impossible to overstate the incredible risks taken by their non-Jewish helpers. People like Miepkes, Johannes Kleiman, Victor Kugler, Bet Voskiel. They chose to put their own lives and their families' lives in extreme danger.
Just to bring them food.
Yeah.
News.
Food, news, books, supplies, anything that could sustain them, physically and mentally, and maintain that crucial link to the outside world. Their actions were profound acts of courage, quiet defiance against an overwhelming evil. They knew the penalty if they were caught helping Jews.
It's truly humbling to think about.
It really is.
And you can feel Anne's fear, that profound sense of confinement echoing through time. Sadly, it resonates with stories of sudden displacement and hidden lives even today, doesn't it?
Unfortunately, yes. History repeats itself in tragic ways.
Think about individuals and families forced to hide from persecution in various parts of the world. Even here in the U.S., you might have situations where asylum seekers or refugees, maybe fleeing violence in Central America or elsewhere, find themselves in precarious hiding arrangements, completely reliant on underground networks for safety and basic survival.
It's a hidden reality for many.
That emotional toll, being confined, constantly vigilant, always needing to trust others for your very existence, it's a universal thread connecting these experiences. Anne's descriptions, the sounds she couldn't make, the windows she couldn't dare look out of during the day, they paint such a visceral picture of psychological imprisonment as much as physical.
This walls closing in both literally and metaphorically.
It really compels you to try and imagine the sheer bravery involved, but also the sheer terror of such a drastic, sudden change in life. One day you're a schoolgirl, the next you're hidden from the world.
It's almost unfathomable, the suddenness of that transition. What always strikes me is Anne's immediate shift in focus. It's like when her external world shrank so dramatically, her internal landscape became her primary domain, almost as a coping mechanism.
That makes sense. She turns inward because the outside is forbidden.
Yeah, the diary becomes even more central.
Okay, another reminder, folks. If you're finding this journey into the Annex compelling, please do like, subscribe, and share. It really helps support the channel.
We appreciate it.
So now we move into Chapter 3, Adjusting to Life in the Annex. This takes us from roughly September 1942 to December 1942.
Settling into a terrifying new normal.
Exactly. Anne's diary entries during this period really detail the day-to-day existence, the strict routines that quickly became absolutely essential for survival in the Secret Annex.
Like the silence during the day.
Oh, the silence. She describes the absolute enforced silence required during work hours when the employees in the warehouse and office below were present. Any loud noise, a dropped object, even a cough at the wrong moment, it could betray them. Imagine that constant, nerve-wracking discipline.
Just living under that pressure day in, day out.
And Anne, with her incredibly sharp observational skills, even at 13, 14, she provides such insightful analysis of the group dynamics, the interpersonal stuff.
Which must have been intense in that confined space.
Intense is probably an understatement. We hear about her growing frustrations with her mother, Edith, which, is a fairly common teenage experience.
Mother-daughter friction, sure.
But amplified like 1,000 times by the extreme confinement and the constant stress. There was no escape, no room to cool off.
Nowhere to go.
Nowhere. She also hilariously, sometimes quite pointedly, captures the quirks and eccentricities of the Van Pels family, Mr. and Mrs. Van Pels, and their son Peter. Her descriptions add this touch of maybe black humor, or just much-needed humor anyway, to the otherwise tense atmosphere.
Finding the absurd in the mundane.
Yes, even as she finds humor in things like the endless task of peeling potatoes or the squabbles over food, you can also feel the subtle surfacing of her own profound loneliness, that sense of isolation, even though she's literally never alone.
Surrounded by people, yet feeling deeply solitary. It's a paradox of confinement.
It really is.
And the historical context here, Emma, it's just critical to understanding the intensity of their daily lives during this specific period, late 1942.
Things were getting worse outside.
Much worse. The Holocaust wasn't just a distant threat anymore. It was intensifying on a massive, horrific scale. Millions of Jews across Europe were being systematically deported to extermination camps like Auschwitz-Birkenau. The machinery of death was operating at full capacity.
And the people in the Annex, they knew this. Or had an idea.
They weren't entirely cut off from this reality, no. They relied heavily, dangerously, on listening to illegal radio broadcasts, primarily the BBC, Radio Orange from London.
Listening in secret, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. At night, huddled around the radio, keeping the volume incredibly low, these broadcasts, despite the constant danger of being discovered, they offered vital glimmers of hope. News of the war's progression, the Allies' efforts. It was their lifeline.
A connection to the outside world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A stark contrast to the suffocating isolation within their hidden walls. So they were profoundly aware of the tragedy unfolding just outside their door, even as they navigated their own claustrophobic existence, their own daily dramas and tensions.
That makes their internal squabbles seem both trivial and completely understandable at the same time.
It does. And it's fascinating how Anne's meticulous recording of daily minutia arguments over shared bathrooms, irritation about someone's habits, the division of food, it almost becomes a way of imposing some kind of order, some structure on a fundamentally chaotic and threatening reality, documenting the small things to cope with the enormous, terrifying big thing.
That makes a lot of sense. And, it's fascinating how Anne's struggles with family tension in such close quarters. They find a modern echo, maybe less extreme, but still relatable, in experiences during periods of intense shared confinement.
Like the pandemic lockdowns.
Exactly. Think about families worldwide, including right here in the U.S., during the COVID-19 lockdowns in 2020-2021. For many, these unprecedented periods of living, working, schooling all under one roof, it led to similar frustrations. Conflicts over personal space, differing habits, the sheer psychological challenge of constant proximity.
Cabin fever on a massive scale.
Totally. And just like Anne turned to her diary, many people turned to coping mechanisms to process those intense emotions. Journaling, for instance, saw a huge resurgence. You had teenagers stuck in city apartments in New York, families on rural properties in, say, Montana. People everywhere were seeking an outlet for their thoughts, their anxieties, their feelings, in a world that suddenly felt very uncertain and constrained.
Finding solace in writing it down.
Yeah. And you see in Anne's diary during this period, she's moving beyond just simple observations. She's starting to do more self-reflection, digging deeper, arguably as a direct result of this enforced introspection. It really makes you consider, doesn't it, how you might cope with such an extreme loss of privacy and personal space, how quickly those small daily irritations could compound under that kind of relentless pressure.
Absolutely. The pressure cooker environment. And the act of documenting those frustrations, as Anne did so powerfully, it provides not only that personal outlet, but also creates this incredibly valuable record of the psychological impact of confinement. It transforms her private struggle into something that resonates as a universal human experience.
So true. Okay, before we move to the next chapter, one last reminder. If you're finding this deep dive valuable, please do like, subscribe, and share. It helps us continue exploring these important stories.
Your support means a lot.
All right, let's delve into Chapter 4, Tensions and Personal Growth. This chapter spans roughly January 1943 to June 1943.
Moving into the second year of hiding.
Exactly. And this period sees Anne delving even deeper into reflections about her evolving identity. She often feels, quite profoundly, misunderstood by the adults around her.
A classic teenage feeling.
A classic teenage feeling, absolutely. But again, amplified massively by the constant confinement and the lack of any other social interaction. There's no escape to school friends or other activities where she might feel differently understood.
Her world is just the annex.
Her world is the annex. We see her increasingly strained relationship with her mother, Edith, becoming a more prominent and often painful theme in the diary. It contrasts quite sharply with her deep longing for a closer, more understanding connection with her mother, which just doesn't seem to materialize in the way she hopes.
That must have been incredibly difficult for both of them.
Unimaginably so. Yet, amidst this familial friction, something else starts to happen. Her growing affection for Peter Van Pels, the teenage son of the other family, it begins to blossom.
A connection with a peer.
Yes, a tender, developing connection. It clearly offers her a different kind of solace, a shared experience of adolescence, albeit in this bizarre and terrifying situation. They can talk, share silences, maybe understand each other in ways the adults can't.
A small island of intimacy.
Exactly. And just when you think the space couldn't possibly get any tighter or the dynamics more complex,
someone else arrives.
Right. The arrival of a new resident, the dentist Fritz Pfeffer, whom Anne calls Albert Dussel in the diary, further increases the tension. He ends up sharing Anne's already small room.
Sharing a room with a middle-aged man she barely knows.
Can you imagine? With already restricted space, dwindling resources, frayed nerves, adding another person was a huge challenge to the group's very delicate balance. And Anne documents all this, the annoyances, the conflicts over the shared desk, with her characteristic, sometimes brutal frankness.
She doesn't hold back.
She really doesn't.
And from a historical perspective, 1943 Well, it saw the Nazi occupation tightening its grip even further across the Netherlands.
Things getting even more dangerous outside.
Definitely. Increased raids in Amsterdam searching for hidden Jews and resistance members were common. This meant the annex residents lived under an even more constant, heightened threat of discovery. Every unexplained noise outside, every siren, must have sent waves of panic through them.
The fear must have been relentless.
Relentless. They were acutely aware, through those clandestine radio reports, of the ongoing deportations. The trains were still leaving Westerbork Transit Camp, heading east to the camps. The scale of the killing was becoming clearer, even if the full details weren't known.
Knowing that was happening while they were hidden.
It adds another layer of psychological burden. Yet, despite this relentless external chaos and the ever-present danger, Anne's diary entries from this period show this remarkable, almost defiant focus on her own personal growth.
She's still trying to figure herself out.
Exactly. It underscores her incredible resilience. She wasn't just passively surviving. She was actively trying to understand herself, to mature emotionally and intellectually, to find meaning even as her world seemed to be collapsing outside the annex walls.
It's incredible.
What's also notable is her developing literary voice during this time. Her descriptions of people, her capturing of dialogue, her reflections, they become more sophisticated. You see the maturing writer emerging.
She's honing her craft, even there.
Yes, consciously or unconsciously.
And Anne's exploration of her own complex emotions during this time, it connects so powerfully to how teenagers today navigate mental health challenges, especially in high-stress environments.
That need to process difficult feelings.
Absolutely. Think about young people caught in conflict zones, for example. Maybe like those in Ukraine starting in 2022, facing war, displacement, constant uncertainty. Many turn to journaling, online or offline, to try and process their experiences, to articulate the confusion and fear surrounding them.
Using writing as a lifeline.
Or even closer to home. Think about young people in American communities facing different kinds of chronic stress, perhaps dealing with community violence, significant family upheaval, intense academic or social pressures, or chronic illness. Many find solace and clarity in written expression.
A way to make sense of things.
Exactly. For many, just like for Anne, the act of writing becomes this powerful tool for self-discovery. It allows them to sort through complex, overwhelming emotions and try to understand their place in a world that feels challenging or even hostile. It really encourages you to reflect, doesn't it, on how adversity sometimes can paradoxically accelerate self-discovery and personal development.
It forces an introspection that might not happen otherwise. How much of Anne's sort of philosophical development do you think was a direct result of this intense, enforced introspection, this lack of external distraction?
That's a fascinating question. I think a significant portion, probably. Deprived of all the usual external stimuli and typical teenage distraction, school, wider friendships. Just going outside, she was forced inward, wasn't she?
The annex became her whole world.
Her whole world. And that confinement, ironically, it seems to have provided this crucible for her thought. It deepened her empathy, pushed her to grapple with these huge questions of humanity, justice, prejudice, her own identity at an exceptionally young age.
It forced her to mature intellectually, perhaps faster than she might have otherwise.
I think so. Okay, let's keep moving. Before we discuss the next chapter, just a quick nudge to help us bring more stories like this to you. Please like, subscribe, and share.
We really appreciate your support.
Okay, Chapter 5, Hope and Despair. This covers July 1943 to December 1943.
A period of real emotional swings, it seems.
Oh, absolutely. Anne's diary entries during these months are this fascinating, sometimes dizzying, emotional roller coaster. They alternate sharply between moments of genuine, profound optimism.
Fueled by news from the outside.
Exactly. She was visibly buoyed by news of Allied advances. She specifically mentions the Allied invasion of Italy and Mussolini being overthrown, a huge moment, a sign that the Axis powers were weakening. You feel her excitement, her hope that liberation might actually be coming.
Tangible signs of progress in the war.
Yes. But then, almost in the next breath sometimes, she's weighed down by this crushing despair. The suffocating reality of the isolation in the annex, the endlessness of it, the fear, the poor nutrition. It all bears down on her.
Daily grind of confinement.
The daily grind, exactly. And Anne provides such insightful analysis of her own inner conflicts during this time. She's questioning her purpose, grappling with her identity, who is she becoming in this strange existence. And she's also navigating her budding, complex feelings for Peter. It's not straightforward.
Young love under impossible circumstances.
Right. Her writing here grows noticeably more introspective, more philosophical. She's really grappling with these big, complex emotions and ideas, showcasing a remarkable maturity well beyond her 14, 15 years.
She's thinking deeply about life, death, meaning.
All of it, while also dealing with teenage angst and annoying roommates. It's an incredible mix.
And historically, by mid to late 1943, the tide of World War II was indeed turning, as Anne sensed from the radio.
So her hope wasn't entirely misplaced.
Not at all. There were significant Allied victories pushing the Germans out of North Africa, the invasion of Sicily, and then mainland Italy. These were major blows to the Axis. So, yes, there was real strategic hope that the war might one day end in Allied victory.
But there's always a bet, isn't there?
There is. It's crucial to understand that despite these Allied military advances, the Holocaust continued unabated. The systematic extermination of Jews by the Nazi regime did not slow down. In fact, in some areas, like Hungary later on, deportations intensified as the Nazis felt time running out.
So, good news on the war front didn't mean safety for Jews in occupied Europe.
Not immediately, no. And specifically for the Annex residents, life was getting harder. They faced increasing hunger as supplies became scarcer and more expensive on the black market. Their helpers were taking ever greater risks. The fear of betrayal or accidental discovery was constant.
So this created a really stark contrast, didn't it, between the external news offering hope for the future
and the relentless internal struggle against hunger, fear, boredom, and the psychological toll of confinement. It highlights the profound challenge of maintaining personal optimism when your own immediate circumstances are so dire and dangerous.
And Anne captures that tension so well.
She really does. What's remarkable is how she manages to juxtapose these two realities, the distant hope and the immediate despair in her writing. She doesn't sugarcoat either one. It gives us this incredibly authentic sense of her lived experience.
Her ability to find moments of hope, or at least cling to the idea of hope, amidst such despair. It's an incredibly powerful theme throughout the diary, but maybe especially here. And it draws such a compelling parallel with modern voices of resilience, doesn't it?
Who comes to mind for you?
Well, you mentioned Malala Yousafzai earlier. Think about her. After surviving that horrific assassination attempt by the Taliban in 2012, simply for advocating for girls' education.
An unimaginable trauma.
Unimaginable. Yet she didn't just recover. She continued her unwavering advocacy, becoming a global symbol for education rights, despite ongoing threats to her life. Her story reflects a similar, powerful determination, that refusal to be silenced by violence or despair.
That conviction in the face of overwhelming odds.
Exactly. And you see that spirit in many places. Maybe it's a high-profile activist like Malala speaking on the world stage, or maybe it's a local community organizer in a struggling neighborhood, say, in Detroit or Appalachia, tirelessly working for change against systemic problems. That kind of unwavering spirit, that belief in a better future, despite the present difficulties, it feels universal.
The refusal to give up.
Right. It compels individuals to push forward, reminding us that even in the darkest times, the human capacity for hope, for action, for believing in something better can shine through. It really makes you consider, how do you find or maintain hope when external circumstances seem completely dire? Where do you draw that strength from?
It's a profound question, and Anne's articulation of that struggle, her wrestling with hope and despair in such a confined, terrifying space, that's a huge part of why her words continue to resonate so deeply. It's a testament to the human spirit's capacity to envision a better future, even when surrounded by the darkest realities.
Beautifully put. Okay, folks, you know the drill. Your support helps us immensely, so please like, subscribe, and share for more profound discussions like this one.
Thank you.
We're now at Chapter 6. Love and Reflection, which spans January 1944 to March 1944.
Entering the final year covered by the diary.
Indeed. And this is a period where Anne's relationship with Peter Van Pels really deepens. It moves beyond just occasional chats.
It becomes more central to her emotional life in the Annex.
Very much so. It's clear she found significant solace, comfort, and even excitement in their conversations, their shared moments, often up in the attic looking out at the sky or the chestnut tree. Amidst the relentless confines and tensions of the Annex, their connection provided this much-needed emotional escape hatch.
Yeah.
A small bubble of normalcy, maybe, or at least genuine intimacy.
Someone her own age to connect with.
Exactly. And Anne delves into this really insightful analysis of her longing for connection, that fundamental human need that becomes incredibly acute under conditions of extreme isolation. She dissects her feelings for Peter, her hopes, her insecurities about the relationship.
She's analyzing it even as she's experiencing it.
Totally. We also see her continuing struggles with self-doubt, another universal aspect of adolescence, wondering if she's worthy, if Peter really understands her. But it's all made so much more poignant by her extreme circumstances. There are no other romantic prospects, no other social outlets to compare it to.
Everything is magnified.
Everything is magnified. And beyond her personal feelings for Peter, her reflections broaden during this time. She starts thinking more about the war's immense toll on people, expressing emerging empathy for those suffering outside the annex, even those she doesn't know. Her worldview is definitely expanding, paradoxically, even as her physical world remains utterly constrained.
That's a profound irony, isn't it? Her mind is traveling even if her body can't.
It really is.
And the historical context of early 1944, it was a really complex mix of news for the hidden residents, more so than ever, perhaps.
Good news and bad news together.
Pretty much. On the one hand, the Allies were clearly advancing on multiple fronts. The Red Army was pushing back the Germans relentlessly in the east. Plans for the D-Day invasion of Western Europe were secretly well underway. So the distant glimmers of hope for liberation were getting stronger, more tangible.
They could maybe start to imagine an end.
Perhaps. But on the other hand, the Nazi regime became arguably more desperate and brutal as it saw the tide turning. Deportations intensified in some areas. The persecution didn't let up, so the danger for Jews in hiding remained incredibly high, possibly even increasing as the net tightened.
A very precarious balance of hope and fear.
Extremely. Now, what's absolutely crucial about Anne's entries during this specific period, something that marks a real shift.
What's that?
It's a change in her purpose as a writer. In March 1944, she heard a radio broadcast from the Dutch minister in exile in London, Gerrit Bolkestein.
Okay.
Bolkestein urged people in occupied Holland to save diaries and letters documenting their wartime experiences, saying they would be important historical records after the war.
Wow. So that directly inspired her.
Directly and profoundly. Almost immediately after hearing that broadcast, Anne began rewriting and editing her earlier diary entries. She started shaping them into a more coherent narrative, even inventing pseudonyms for the people involved.
Like calling the Van Pels family the Van Daens.
Exactly. This act clearly shows her burgeoning ambition. She wasn't just writing for herself anymore, or just for Kitty, her imaginary friend. She was consciously writing for a future audience, for the world to know what happened inside the annex. She wanted her story published.
That changes everything, doesn't it? Her perspective on her own writing.
It really does. It adds a layer of deliberation, of literary intention to these later entries. She's crafting her legacy, even as she's living through the experience.
That's incredible foresight for a 15-year-old.
Isn't it?
And her developing relationship with Peter, the comfort she found in that connection. It really highlights how young people facing various crises, even today, find such vital strength and comfort in their peer relationships.
That need for solidarity with someone who understands.
Right. Consider teenagers facing immense adversity. Maybe it's young people living through ongoing conflict, like in Gaza in recent times, sharing snippets of their lives and fears online to connect with others. Or maybe it's teens in, say, American cities grappling with social unrest or economic hardship, forming tight-knit groups for support.
Finding connection in shared struggle.
Exactly. They turn to each other for solace, for understanding, for just a moment of normalcy. It underscores that universal human need for connection and shared experience, especially when dealing with overwhelming fear or isolation. Anne's vulnerability with Peter wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a source of strength. It allowed her to explore her own growing identity in this deeply intimate way. It really reminds us how shared vulnerability can forge incredibly powerful, life-affirming bonds.
It absolutely emphasizes that profound human need for connection, particularly during times of extreme stress, and how those bonds can become anchors, providing not just emotional support, but also a mirror for self-discovery, helping you figure out who you are in relation to someone else. Her ability to articulate that longing and then to find some measure of fulfillment for it, even briefly, makes it a particularly moving part of her story.
It really does. Okay, we appreciate you staying with us. Please like, subscribe, and share to keep the conversation going. Every click helps.
It truly does.
And now, we've arrived at the final chapter covered in the diary, Chapter 7, Final Entries and Abrupt End. This covers April 1944 up to that last entry on August 1st, 1944.
The home stretch, tragically cut short.
Tragically. And Frank's final diary entries. They revealed just a profound level of maturity and a deeply philosophical outlook that is simply astounding for someone her age, barely 15.
She seems much older in her writing here.
Much older. Despite witnessing, through radio reports and her own deductions and imagination, the horrors unfolding around her, the sheer scale of the war and the persecution, she expresses this unwavering, almost defiant belief in human goodness.
That famous line.
That famous line, "In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart." And it's crucial to understand this doesn't feel like naive optimism. Not after everything she's seen and written about. It feels like a deliberate choice.
A philosophical stance.
Yes, almost a testament to her inherent spirit. A conscious refusal to let the hatred and brutality she knew existed corrupt her core beliefs about humanity's potential. It's incredibly powerful.
It really is, especially knowing what was happening just outside.
And then, silence. The diary just ends, abruptly. On August 1st, 1944, there's no conclusion, no farewell. It just stops mid-thought, almost, and it leaves you, the reader, the listener, with this palpable, jarring sense of loss.
That sudden halt.
That sudden halt to her voice, her thoughts, her incredible spirit. Knowing, as we do now, what happened just days later, that silence speaks volumes. It's utterly heartbreaking.
It's devastating. And it's here, after that final entry, that the afterword provided by historians, and initially by Otto Frank himself, gives us the crucial, terrible information.
What happened next?
What happened next? The Secret Annex was raided by the Gestapo and Dutch police on the morning of August 4th, 1944, just 3 days after Anne's last diary entry, and barely 6 weeks before Allied forces began liberating parts of the Netherlands.
So close to potential freedom.
Agonizingly close. The exact cause of the raid is still debated by historians, whether it was a deliberate betrayal by someone who knew about the hiding place — several suspects have been investigated over the decades — or perhaps an accidental discovery during a search for something else, like illegal work or ration fraud. We may never know for sure.
But the outcome was the same.
The outcome was the same. All 8 people hiding in the annex, the Frank family, the Van Pels family, and Fritz Pfeffer, were arrested. Their helpers, Johannes Kleiman and Victor Kugler, were also arrested.
And sent where?
They were initially taken to Gestapo headquarters, then to Westerbork transit camp in the Netherlands, and from there deported on the last transport train ever to leave Westerbork for Auschwitz-Birkenau in Poland.
All of them.
All 8 hiders were on that train. Anne herself, after enduring Auschwitz, was later transported with her sister Margot to Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in Germany. It was there, tragically, that both sisters died of typhus, likely in February or March 1945, just weeks before the British liberated the camp.
Just weeks. It's unbearable.
It is. Most importantly, for the legacy of the diary, it was Anne's father, Otto Frank, who miraculously survived Auschwitz and the end of the war. He was the sole survivor of the 8 people who hid in the annex.
The only one.
The only one. When he returned to Amsterdam after the war, Miep Gies, one of the brave helpers who had avoided arrest, gave him Anne's diary notebooks and papers, which she had rescued from the annex after the raid and kept safe.
She saved the diary.
She saved the diary. And Otto Frank, eventually overcoming his grief, decided to fulfill Anne's expressed wish from that radio broadcast, her ambition to have her story published. He edited the diary, combining her original entries with her later rewritten versions, and it was first published in Dutch in 1947 as Het Achterhuis, The Secret Annex.
Giving her voice, and by extension, the voices of millions silenced to the world.
Precisely. It was a testament to her almost prophetic desire to have her story heard, ensuring her experience wasn't forgotten.
Anne's enduring optimism, that unbelievable belief in human goodness despite everything, it connects so strongly, I think, to modern voices who inspire change amidst overwhelming global challenges.
Like who?
Well, think about someone like Greta Thunberg. Since 2018, when she started her solitary school strike, Thunberg has spoken out so passionately, so consistently against the global crisis of climate change.
Facing a lot of criticism and dismissal along the way.
Absolutely. But she does it with this unwavering sense of hope, or perhaps determination is a better word. Determination that action is possible, that change is necessary. She inspires millions, particularly young people, despite the immense scale of the problems she addresses and the powerful forces resistant to change.
A singular voice cutting through the noise.
Exactly. Much like Anne's diary continues to do, Greta's singular voice has transcended her individual circumstances to become this powerful global call for awareness and action. It reminds us again, doesn't it, of the immense power of a single voice, a single story, whether written in secret or shouted in protest, to transcend time and tragedy, and to inspire a continued belief in humanity's potential for good, or at least our potential to do good.
And how those voices, whether preserved in a diary found decades later or amplified instantly by modern media, become these crucial catalysts. Catalysts for reflection, for empathy, and hopefully for positive change across generations. They serve as enduring symbols of courage, conviction, and the importance of bearing witness.
Absolutely. This brings us to the end of our chapter-by-chapter exploration. It's been quite a journey. Just a final reminder, please like, subscribe, and share for more insightful deep dives like this one.
Your support is greatly appreciated.
What an extraordinary journey we've taken, really, through the pages of Anne Frank's diary. From those early, almost innocent reflections of a 13-year-old girl excited about her new notebook,
To the incredibly profound insights of a young woman confronting unimaginable darkness, forced to mature so quickly.
her voice, it truly, truly echoes through time, doesn't it?
Indeed. It's utterly fascinating, isn't it, how her intensely personal narrative, physically constrained within those few hidden rooms, somehow became this universal testament, a testament to the human spirit's resilience, its endurance, and its enduring quest for meaning, even in the worst circumstances.
It really did transcend its origins.
It did. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, thinking about history and memory, it raises important questions, I think, about how we in the present bear witness to histories like this one. What are our responsibilities when we encounter these stories?
That's a heavy question. It's such a powerful reminder for all of us, though, that even in the most isolating, terrifying circumstances, the simple act of self-expression, of documenting one's truth, one's feelings, one's observations, can become this unexpected beacon, a beacon of hope and understanding, not just for the writer, but for generations to come.
The power of the written word.
Immense power. Thinking back over our discussion today, what specific passage or maybe insight from Anne's story stands out most vividly to you now, having revisited her journey chapter by chapter? Is there one thing that particularly resonates today?
That's a tough one. There are so many. But perhaps it's that constant tension she navigated between her critique of the people around her, her frustrations, and her underlying empathy and desire for connection. It feels so deeply human. And for you?
For me, I think it might be the sheer force of her intellectual curiosity and her determination to understand herself, others, the world. Even when her physical world was so brutally limited, her mind remained free.
That's beautifully put. And it leads to that final, perhaps provocative thought for listeners. What is Anne's unwavering belief in human goodness, that famous line, stated even in the face of unspeakable evil? What does that mean for us today? In our own world, as we grapple with modern challenges, conflicts, divisions, can we, or perhaps should we, strive to hold on to that same kind of belief, or is it naive?
That's something to really mull over, isn't it? Her words weren't just a diary. They're this living legacy, an invitation really not just to remember the past, but to actively use that memory to try and build a more humane, more empathetic future. Ensuring her voice and the lessons it carries continues to inspire us to never give up on the promise of human dignity.
A call to action, echoing from the Annex.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it provided some valuable perspective.
Thank you for listening.